Hello everyone and welcome to this Shopware interview about the future of the Shopware community. Now that's a very hefty title, and as you saw from the thumbnail, I will be not alone, but I will be with Mark Stanley from Shopware. Hello Mark.
Hi Niklas, how are you doing? Glad to be here. Hello everybody watching.
Thank you, I'm fine. So you are the CPTO of Shopware, the Chief Product and Technology Officer. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's quite a lofty title, isn't it? Well, basically it means I'm responsible and accountable for product development. So that's engineering, product management, design, and also our community relations, amongst other things. So everything under that umbrella.
Basically everything that has to do with Shopware, the software.
Correct.
Apart from marketing and sales, that's the topic for someone else.
Everything to do with the software and those that build it with us in the community.
True. That's basically why we're here today, to talk about the community and the future. But first, let's talk a bit about you, because you are someone who's maybe not that known. By the way, if someone watching right now is not aware who I am, I do this for a living at Shopware. I'm the developer advocate. I talk to people from the community. I'm also part of the developer relations team. So maybe you have seen me on some Shopware Community Day. All right, but Mark, you are kind of newish to Shopware. When did you join?
I actually joined the 1st of March last year, so I've just passed my first year anniversary. So not so new, but also a bit of a newbie too.
Congratulations on your anniversary. Yeah, we are recording this on, let me look, 5th of March. So it's 4 days past your anniversary. Now, to give the people an impression who's in charge of the product right now, I have some personal stuff that we maybe can talk about, or some personal questions. First of all, you were very polite at the beginning of the video, very un-German. So I figure from that you are not a German born, raised person culturally.
No, I'm a Brit from the south of England, originally from Cornwall, down on the southwest tip, where there's lots of beaches and lots of surfing. And I now live just outside Brighton on the south coast. So it's very wet and windy.
Nice. That's a very good description. Very wet and windy. Okay. You are also... but when we get a little bit into your history, right? So why are you doing product stuff? You are originally, you are a developer, a software developer, right?
That's right, yes. I was a developer for many, many years. Started off in the video games industry, first writing sound engines for video games, which is pretty bonkers because you'd have to write it in C and there was no debugger. So it was a lot of like guesswork, which is pretty tricky when you're trying to decode codecs and all sorts of things. And then moved on to doing a lot of C++, low-level optimization in a lot of different games. So yes, C++ is my native tongue, so to speak, but I've been a developer through and through for many years.
A slight tangent. What do you think about Rust?
Rust?
Yeah, the language, not the game.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, there's so many different languages out there today. I'm a big fan of ones that are more, opinionated, and particularly ones that also are semi-compiled, I guess, or strongly typed. I think there's a lot of great work going on.
Yeah,
been doing quite a bit of stuff in Golang as well.
It's always nice if you ask someone about Rust who has a C++ background, you hear usually a very different answer, because people who have not this, who do not have this background, go like, "Oh my God, the syntax is really intimidating." You're just, yeah, well, it's nice, nice. Okay, so wait, you said you were doing games. So in what context did you do stuff for games?
Yeah, so my first job was working in a very small boutique games studio in England, working on the Warhammer 40,000 franchise, which was a lot of fun. Also worked on the Xbox and PlayStation 2 versions of Call of Duty, doing a lot of the networking, which was pretty bonkers, having to take a single player game and make it multiplayer and do lots of forward prediction on movement due to latency. Then I moved to PlayStation and worked on a soccer game called This Is Football, which was also really fun, and learning a lot about physics in action and gameplay and things like that. I also worked on the SingStar franchise. I was the lead developer on that for many years.
Can you sing?
Not very well, no. But the algorithm takes care of the pitch detection for that, so you don't have to be able to sing. But you can just hum along and still get high scores.
That's how I got my scores.
Yeah,
just
exactly. And then I worked on a lot of the underlying tech for PlayStation VR, which was in its very early days, about 2010, which was a lot of fun. And then I did the big evil switch to Xbox, which was quite dramatic.
Microsoft, yeah.
Yes.
But we like Microsoft, we like Copilot, we like GitHub. Microsoft now does open source. So you basically witnessed the switch inside of Microsoft from being the evil, which it never really, it's debatable. I don't want to get into religion here. But so you witnessed the transition to being more open to open source, right?
100%, yes. And it very much, came with the transition of Satya taking over and Steve Ballmer on his way out.
You're talking about the CEOs here, right?
100%. It was very much
just so not all people might know them. So yeah, Steve Ballmer was the developers guy.
Yeah.
And after that, basically no one knows who's the CEO because he was such a figure. But yeah.
Exactly. And then Satya came in and really shifted a lot of the mindset. And of course, they now look after GitHub and lots of other technologies. And there is a big push, well, certainly in my day, when I was there, 2014, 2015, 2016, to be much more open and embracing.
And sometimes it's just one person in the right position to make a change like that, which is nice.
And I think, the thing I think that really Microsoft realized was that their home strength is tooling for developers. And as soon as they sort of shifted away from trying to own everything and instead just focus on making better tools, like Visual Studio Code, for example, everything just got a hell of a lot better. Yeah,
definitely. So you are basically passionate about new technology. You have a background, a strong, very strong background in development. And why I asked you all this is because so something like that, like, living shapes how you see things, right? And in your specific case, you have this gaming background. And we talked about this interview, of course, beforehand. And you told me a few things. And what I got from this is that gamification is something like, wait a moment, the good side of gamification is something that you are also very passionate about, that you have a background in education, actually. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, before I joined Shopware, I started a studio called Lift London for Xbox in 2012. And we did a lot of free-to-play games. We also did some publishing with some smaller developers that really got my passion going with independent and indie game devs. And then I had the opportunity to go and work for an education company and really then start bringing a lot of this gamification and the motivation and productivity of how to want to achieve and how to do more into the framework of learning. And in particular, it's about language learning. And so I've always had a kind of strong passion in education and how you can motivate people to want to do more within that space.
So when we pull all this together and connect it, then you are someone who knows what he's doing and saying in terms of programming. So you are in the perfect position for actually steering the development of the product itself. Also, you are someone who knows a lot about the gaming, who has, or the gaming, you know what I mean, who has a gaming background, who knows about gamification, who knows about education. And if you put all this together, what does that mean for the community? Now, you said we will bring gamification into education. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by gamification in this context?
Yeah, well, I mean, gamification is not like just putting 3 stars on an activity that you've just completed, right? That's kind of like not really the theory behind it. Ultimately, if you sort of bring it down to its roots, gamification is really about becoming invested in something and contributing to something. And also, it's about feeling productive. Productive in something that you want to do or achieve, to do more, ultimately. Yeah. So it's about establishing this framework of, this is what I'm doing, this is where I am, this is where I could be, and these are the things that I want to do in order to achieve those goals. And then as I unlock those goals, I get more things that I can do, and then I can see my progress against it. So it's about feeling productive in the things that you do and feeling rewarded for it.
Also to make work more enjoyable?
Yeah, I think so. It's about that kind of instant gratification for doing something and then feeling good about doing it afterwards, and that thing that you've done is meaningful in some way.
Now, gamification in the evil sense, let's put it that way, always means that people are trying to, in the gaming space, to keep people playing, although it's not really fun anymore, but they want that next star, that next, I don't know, item or whatever. So they keep playing, they keep being online. But what does it mean in our context, and how do you plan to make gamification meaningful?
Well, I think there's a few things to unpack there. I mean, you reference gamification in the sort of evil way. Mm-hmm. Well, gamification in the evil way is really exploiting some of the kind of underlying social mechanics of how human behavior works, and really getting people to click on that advert, right? Which is pretty much how a lot of the free tech sector operates, right? Gamification in a good way is really about bringing people together into a world that they want to be part of and helping them to do things together that is meaningful in some way, and that they get some sort of social proof or socially positive response from, right? So that's the kind of evil versus good, if so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And how does this map onto the Shopware ecosystem? I will expand a little bit on what I mean, also for you, the viewer. Now, when we talk about games or anything, learning, whatever, and gamification, it's quite clear. But in the Shopware ecosystem, and we will talk about how you see community in a moment, but in the Shopware ecosystem, you have like people who are actually making money with that. So that they do it anyway, like it's their job to learn Shopware or to make that new project a reality. How does gamification map onto this?
Those are, economic exterior motives that exist, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're all people. So you can also make the connection to people's own desires and the things they want to do also more meaningful. So the way I think about it in terms of Shopware is, at the end of the day, we need to be able to make it easier for people to learn about Shopware as a tech stack, how to do the things that they want to do in Shopware. And we also want to encourage, our community to be able to be part of that journey, and also to mentor other people and make it meaningful and rewarding together, right? That's the kind of way that all of this interlinks. Mm-hmm.
So basically you can learn every every software out there, even competing e-commerce system, but Shopware should be the most rewarding way to do this on a personal level, on a meaningful level.
Right, and a lot of that stuff is already happening, of course, in Slack or Stack Overflow or in our community events, but we want to be able to kind of do more to make it so that, there's a more of a central place or a more of a central hub in how we can bring these things together so that everyone can help each other out. Because at the end of the day, a rising tide lifts all ships, so to speak, right?
That's true.
So to make that, more frictionless and more human and more connected is something that we're thinking a lot about.
Okay, that's actually something I want to get back to in a moment. But first, I have one last question, and that is how do you see the community? Because it's a word that Shopware uses quite often, that I use quite often, but there is a very diverse crowd out there. Like there are developers, merchants, the merchants who are developers who are merchants, extension partner, integration partner, tech partners, agency, and everything in between, and a mix of that. So, what do you mean when you say the community?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately, us as humans, we're all a mixed bag and everybody's different and everyone has different motives. I think the thing that brings us together is we're all connected to this product and this software. We all want to, do things with it. And some of us also want to be able to share more about how you can do stuff with it, if you see what I mean. So I think those are the things that binds us together. And I think the more that we can kind of unlock the network effect of allowing more people to be able to share more of these insights or tips or tricks or expertise in particular areas, the more everybody else is going to benefit together. And that really is the underlying principle of open source as a concept.
So you see the Shopware community as a network of people who, in one way or the other, have something to do with Shopware. That's basically how I define it as well. I always say anyone who has an emotional or financial connection to Shopware is part of the community. All right, so
exactly, and I would say, just to add to that, it's a broad church.
Yeah,
and that's how it should be seen, right?
That's a very nice term for that. Now, for the last part, I have 2 questions. One is about if you have anything in store for the future, because ultimately we are talking about the future. And the other one I have to ask, although I know the answer by heart, but it's something that in the past I was asked by community members, and I was always like, why? What is in your brain that makes you ask this thing? And the question is, will Shopware stay open source?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, the other part is the future of the Shopware community. This is a very lofty title. I think you used the term for your title of CPTO. But what do you have planned, or do you have plans? What will happen? What is there in store for the community?
Yeah, I mean, I think, on the point of will Shopware stay open source, 100%. It's written into the DNA of the company. It's part of our company
history,
values. History. It's part of our brand. We're not going to be unwinding any of that. It'd be crazy to.
Yeah.
And it's our first and most important customer promise, which is open source adoption.
By the way, if I may interrupt you, for everyone out there who does not know, Shopware used to be closed source. So we are coming from a closed source background, and we very deliberately choose open source. We saw the effects that it had on the software, which were overwhelmingly positive, and there is no incentive or anything to go back.
No, exactly. And part of our sort of fundamental mission statement is more Shopware everywhere.
Yeah.
And this is the thing we live and breathe internally. So we're always thinking about and looking out for how can we bring Shopware in more and more markets, to more and more developers, to more and more merchants, and in a way that everybody wins. Mm-hmm. That's really the most important part.
All right. And are there any plans or anything that you have or anything that you can already talk about? Because of course you're not sitting around and staring at clouds all day. So there are plans, but is there anything, maybe a glimpse that you want to share what you have planned for the future?
Yes, so there's a bunch of different things that are kind of ticking over at the moment that we're squirreling away on, and we will be definitely looking to share more bits of those and getting feedback mm-hmm. from folks, particularly at the Developer Day mm-hmm. In May.
Of the Shopware Community.
But some of the exactly. But some of the things that we're really thinking about is a top of mind, a buttoned up, coherent consistent, unified developer experience. That's something that we really want to be able to drive forwards. So it's not just like a bunch of different frameworks that you have to go learn this thing, learn this thing, learn this thing. We want to start bringing that together under one, banner.
Yeah.
And that's a work stream for us at the moment, and we'll be getting more and more feedback about that throughout the year. We want to be able to improve the ways that you can interact with Shopware, not just over our APIs, but over different mechanisms. More on that soon, but allowing for a more diverse ecosystem and making the migration journey much, much easier to Shopware. That's very much top of mind. So we'll be talking more about that later in the year. And then also the other thing that I think is worth sharing to this audience, as I've been alluding to around our community, is we want to become much more active in how we bring the community together in software, basically. So we'll be talking about some early ideas around that at the community day. But in particular, we want to make it so that it is not just a bunch of all of these different places. These are things that people ask me about all the time. Or is it Slack? Is it Stack Overflow? What do we want to do? What do we want to do here? But really trying to bring it together into
simplify
one place
things, basically.
Simplify things and make it more meaningful. And tying it into that sort of like, oh, I can do a thing and I can see the result of doing that thing and the reward from it.
Okay, so to anyone out there, don't expect miracles overnight. That's important, I think. Just, but be aware that with you, Mark, we have someone very capable of bettering things and of making things more simple and enjoyable to work with, to learn, to do things with Shopware. So I would say the future of the Shopware community is a bright one.
Exactly. And the other missing piece also with gamification is that it should be a delightful experience, right? It is a world that you want to be a part of, and there shouldn't be horrendous friction and a lot of effort to go and do one thing or another. So the point you made there about simplicity is also tied into delight. We want to simplify a lot of these things, we want to bring them together, and we want to make it a delightful, engaging experience for all community members to be involved in.
Perfect. So the future of the Shopware community is a bright one and near Brighton. And with that cheap joke, I would say thank you very much, Mark, for talking to me, and everyone out there, thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.